morning to everyone. Reading this book reminds us that the problems of years ago remain to this day. It's as if time has stood still and the country froze. But this also tells us that Bobby Tanyada devoted his years in politics and as a human rights lawyer to enduring causes, to issues that strike at the roots of our problem. As we remember, Bobby Tanyada marched on the streets against the Marcos dictatorship and became a legislator when democracy returned, and he was in both houses. And Senator Tanyada writes in his preface that he tried to follow in his father's giant footsteps. Actually, he has made his own mark in Philippine politics. And at this point, we wish we had more leaders with convictions like Senator Tanyada amid the backdrop of the disgusting battle for House Speaker. But that's an aside. So the book, Sense of Nationhood, as was mentioned earlier, puts together privileged speeches and other speeches of former senator from 1988 to 2005. And these speeches were delivered many years ago, but the themes reverberate to this day. And I will just recap the themes: the struggle for national sovereignty, primacy of human rights, the imperative of a just peace, and the quest for social justice and an economic paradigm that puts the country's interests above all else. So, taken as a whole, this book brings back memories, and it is always helpful to look back to prepare us for the future armed with lessons of the past. So, let me focus on human rights because it is in this area where we are racing to the bottom today, where impunity rules. EJKs are rampant, and President Duterte protects law enforcers who break the law and who only know the language of violence. These are as close to state-sanctioned killings as they can get. And let me quote from the book. The human rights issues during the Marcos era included the abduction and murder of persons suspected of being part of the underground movement, end of quote. Isn't this the same thing happening today? Red tagging and killing of activists are happening under Duterte. Senator Tanyada also wrote, and I quote, "Repression during the dictatorship saddened me a lot, and this worsened because whatever Marcos said was law. But I was encouraged by the people's resistance to the repression." End of quote. I can imagine former Senator Tanyada returning to this state of sadness because the similarities between Marcos and Duterte are eerie. But the question is, are we seeing encouraging signs of popular resistance to Duterte? That's for another book. Senator Tanyada also took on the issue of death penalty, and he wrote, and I quote, "I voted against the death penalty bill, and I cited several reasons for this. Death penalty works mainly against the poor who are usually deprived of the services of competent lawyers. The death penalty can be used as an instrument of political repression, and it denigrates the value of human life." End of quote. Again, today, Duterte wants a death penalty back. So for the younger advocates against death penalty, you can find parts of this book quite helpful. And there's a quote which struck me because it rings to this day. And I quote, "We must continue to pursue reforms in the country's criminal justice system to fight for an upright and decisive political leadership, a clean and effective police force, an efficient and impartial justice system, and a graft-free and competent penal system." This task, this big task ahead, is addressed to the young of today, to whom Senator Tanyada dedicates his book. And I quote, "It is now your generation that is at the helm to bring our country to a better place. May you learn from the lessons of our past as you move forward in these very challenging and complicated times." End of quote. Indeed, in these perilous times, when the flame of democracy is buffeted by strong winds of authoritarian rule, the book reminds us of what we stand to lose: adherence to human rights, sovereign rights, and liberal values. A sense of nationhood powerfully speaks to the present while bringing us back to the recent past when Bobby Tanyada eloquently advocated and fought for these causes. So I hope you can all read the book, and thank you for listening.